12 month bail conditions and all that. It was your own interest to just get in, get 4 months done and be free from it all. And there's loads of people done it. Some people just can't hack it. Some people, I've seen people refusing tags, saying that, not putting me on a tag, send me back to jail. Honest to God. Because it's the psychological damage from that is tenfold. The psychological damage from prison. The psychological damage from prison can be you can cope with prison. Do you understand? Your mind's a powerful thing, and if you're built right, you can cope in any environment. And prison's one of them environments where you can cope if you want to. Do you understand? Out here, with the harassment of the police and the harassment of the probation and the conditions, the restrictions, the isolation, all that, you can't do core. You're coping with one thing and they'll come with another. And now you're trying to cope with this, and as you're coping with this, that one's breaking down again. And don't forget, you're just trying to resettle. You're just trying to fit back into society, and you've got the authorities hell-bent in getting you to breach your conditions so they can put you back in prison. That's what it was with me. And that's what it is with most known violent criminals who's got a bit of like notorious stigma surrounding the name or the family name. We get treated different. We get treated different from saying Mr. No Mark down there, that's a bit violent. He'll get restrictions that aren't nowhere near the same as my restrictions. And I'm only getting them restrictions because of the family name and the public profile. Do you understand? And they do a lot of things. You know, they do a lot of risk assessments where your public profile gets brought into account when you're going for like paroles, when you're going for rottles, when you're going for Cat D recategorisations or home leaves, all stuff like this. Your public profile comes into account. So what used to happen with criminals when they went to prison? You'd have a gangbanger or someone by yours, very notorious, everyone's scared of him. Bad, everyone's speaking about him, dead relevant. Gets to 20, 2 years, year later, 4 years later, out of sight, out of mind. Someone else is now the topic of conversation. Someone else is now relevant. Someone else is now getting a 20. 3 years later, out of sight, out of mind. That's normally the process. You go in jail, a few years later, out of sight, you're out of mind, you're not relevant no more. People are talking about the next criminal, the next violent gangbanger. With me, I've gone to jail. 2 or 3 years later, I should have been out of sight, out of mind. Do you understand what I'm saying? I should have been able to just and get on with. But I had 2 brothers left outside. I had brothers outside that was carrying the G name down the wrong direction, if you like. Do you understand what I'm saying? So my brothers are outside doing madness, and every time they're arrested or they create a victim or the Liverpool Echo speaks about them and their crimes, my name will be lashed right in the middle of it in capital letters. Danny G, the brother of gangster Darren G. And that mention within the public domain in your local papers or your national papers or documentaries, it heightens my risk in prison. So when you've got people screaming on here, what about Wesby, what about Wesby, what about Wesby, can I just shut it down? I'm not going to harm his parole. I'm not going to harm his attempts of freedom. And anyone that's running around speaking about Danny G, speaking about Wes Brown, speaking about all these kids that are well known in your areas, Manchester, Birmingham, you're speaking about them all, you're giving them a profile while they're in prison, which is going to damage their attempts of getting recategorised, getting rottles, getting decats, all that. And it's best not to speak about them out here. It's best not to speak about what they get up to and what they do. Even the likes of this young Mazza kid. I don't. If Maz is on a sentence where you get parole, or if you get bail conditions, or you see the license conditions that this Maz is going to have now on the back of the content out here. He's going to be restricted through the roof. He's going to have probation. He's going to be a gun nominal. He's going to have gang injunctions on him. They're going to make his life horrendous because of his public profile. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And there's loads of people who do it knowing. It was like years ago when all the rats were cancelling me out. They just wanted to scream about Danny G. Not one of them likes to scream about Willie Moore. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? They all want to scream Danny G, and because they know it's going to affect his possibilities parole. They know it's going to drag out his process of getting free from prison. They know that. I was telling them, keep his name out your mouths. You're going to jeopardise his parole hearings. You're going to jeopardise his progress through the prison system, you rats. You all know what you're doing. Not one of them screaming Willie Moore. Not one of them screaming Darren Waterhouse. Not one of them screaming the fact that Willie Moore still distributes firearms around the city of Liverpool. Not one of them, they don't start screaming about Willie Moore. Why? Because they're all on that side of the fence. The majority of the people that have been harming me or hindering me since my release are all affiliated to that fat prick. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And just because it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, don't think he's not sat there just as poisonous, just as hateful, just as revengeful and vengeful towards me. And he does all he can to harm me out here by using all knobheads. So when you hear me speaking about, the little weird, irrelevant, fat MMA fighter that came to nothing, the reason he's got an issue with me over 20 years is because of Willie Moore. The reason the Lows had a problem with me was because of Willie Moore. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So all my problems that's coming from Liverpool is still to do with that was happening in 2004 when young Craig got his life taken. It's the same clique of people. It's the same established organised crime families. It's all the same. Willie Moore's one of them crime families. He's one of them generational crime families that you hear me speaking about. Willie Moore would sit down with Frank Lowe and have a roast. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? That's how powerful Willie Moore was when we stood our ground against him. Nothing changed. Yous know the boys. Just because you go to jail doesn't mean you stop earning money. Doesn't mean you stop grafting. Especially when it's an oil graft. When it's secure, nothing can break it. It's easy, a few phone calls. You don't stop. You just get rich and rich and rich, and when you're in prison doing a 35 rep like that, soft guns. Think about it, right? Think about this, people. Because it's worth thinking about you youngsters who start getting involved with these snitches up there 20 years older than you and that. Trust me, because that's all they do. That's all they do. When it's the fan.